On this episode of Arts Weekly, I'm speaking with Sameer Patel from the Fort Wayne Philharmonic.
Musically speaking, the most amazing experience of my life. And you go into these little nucleos where you see these little children with music instruments from the ages of 3 and older, and you see that music is literally saving their lives. It's a very inspiring thing to be down there, and to know that music is accessible to everybody.
And John O'Connell from the IPFW Department of Theater.
My job as an educator is to give our students a well-rounded theater education that has Shakespeare, has musical theater, and has some of the American classics. And Arthur Miller is of the American canon that our theater students should know about, but also a lot of our theater is attended by the general population of IPFW.
This is Arts Weekly.
Arts Weekly is a production of the College of Visual and Performing Arts at IPFW, offering degrees in fine arts, music, theater, and visual communication and design. IPFW, the energy of arts.
Hello, I'm Chuck O'Connor. You're watching Arts Weekly. Joining me is Sameer Patel, the new Assistant Conductor of the Fort Wayne Philharmonic. Sameer, welcome to Fort Wayne and welcome to the show.
Thank you, it's good to be here.
Well, as we just said, you're new at the Philharmonic. You're the Assistant Conductor. Where were you before you came to Fort Wayne?
Well, I was born and raised in Michigan, and I spent most of my life there, trained there, went to school there, of course, and worked there a little bit, but I immediately came from Boston. I spent 1 year in Boston with Boston Philharmonic Orchestra, and was awarded this position, and so I moved here in September.
Came back to the Midwest.
Came back to the Midwest, yeah, very happy to be here.
Michigan guy.
Oh, yeah.
And where did you get your training?
I went to the University of Michigan. I did my undergraduate and master's degrees there, and then I spent some time going back and forth overseas to do some master classes with some conductors and orchestras in Europe. And but my formal training was at the University of Michigan.
University of Michigan, and you studied music, obviously.
That's correct.
I mean, how does one become trained to be a conductor?
Well, first and foremost, you need to play an instrument, and so for me that was that was piano, and I grew up playing the piano, and I also played the saxophone as well in band in high school, but I haven't played that in quite a few years. But when I got to university, most of my classes were in music theory, that is studying harmony and counterpoint and the language of music. You study music history. You take your music lessons and develop that discipline, and then you perform, of course, and then when it comes time to make that decision to wave a stick around, you take that on and you study that. That's a craft on its own, and so
right.
I earned a master's degree in that.
And you earned a master's degree in conducting. At what point did you decide that you wanted to be a conductor?
I got the bug very early, actually, in high school, and I was lucky to have a really great music teacher for my band. And he was a great leader, a great conductor, and I'd always been the leader growing up in school. I was always, student council president or class president or whatever. And only when I started to get more and more interested in music in high school, and like I said, this great teacher who was a great conductor, and I just saw what he was doing and said, I want to do that.
I see. So you actually went to college with the idea of
the idea of that. And I started studying conducting early on. Usually people wait a few years until their graduate degree to take that on, but I started actually during my undergraduate degree and worked with a professor there.
A lot of people, they go to the concert, they see the conductor waving the baton, but what goes into conducting? What kind of preparation do you have to do, and how do you look at a piece of music in order to conduct it?
God, that's a good question. There's a lot of preparation that goes on behind the scenes, and that is you look at a piece of music and you study it and you study it and you study it. You're looking at the language of it. You're looking at how every single note on the page is put together. And sometimes it's difficult because sometimes immediately the piece won't jump out at you and say, okay, this is ready to be performed now. But it takes months or weeks or maybe even a couple of years to really feel like you have an understanding of the piece and then you have something to say about it. a friend of mine uses the analogy of a movie director, and I think that's a great one, because if you look at a film director, they have a script, a black and white script, and somehow they have to make what's on the page come alive. And of course, the other part of the equation is that they're not on the set, unless it's George Clooney or one of these actor-directors. But they are behind the scenes. They're trying to evoke the best out of the people that are in front of them. And so it's the same thing with a conductor. You're dealing with a masterpiece by Beethoven or Brahms, and you've studied the language, you have an idea of the way it should be performed. And then over the rehearsal process, you try to engage with musicians and come up with a joint picture of a piece of music that you feel strongly about, and of
course you shape it.
You shape it, exactly.
And I always wanted to hear like the same piece of music conducted back to back by two different conductors, just to get the experience of what a conductor does and how they interpret.
Right.
Because obviously you don't know exactly what Beethoven was thinking.
Exactly. We don't know.
Yeah.
We have an idea. He's given us a blueprint. And that's what's part of the joy about being an artist, is that you get to play with that a little bit and strive to come as close as possible to achieving this impossible perfection, perhaps.
Well, okay, you've been quoted as saying of being a big advocate for music education and to making sure that youth are exposed to music. And why is it that music is so important, you think?
It's the greatest expression of the human spirit. And it has an ability to move us and touch us and inspire us and heal us. And I think it's important to share that with people. And once you're exposed to music and you begin to love it, it really enriches your own life.
And it also, I think, makes
others.
you better at other things too.
Absolutely.
We were just talking with the crew here before the show about how some of us play music. It's a part of our lives.
Yeah.
And it's also a great way of learning how to master something.
Exactly.
As the result being that maybe you can master other things. It gave me a great sense of confidence when I was a kid.
Yeah. It gives you confidence. They always cite the test scores and say that music, of course, makes you score better on tests, and
it does
all sorts of things. But it teaches you how to be a team player, how to be a leader, how to be, how to be disciplined and focused. And
now you've traveled all over the world, and one of the things that I was interested to find out is you went down to Venezuela, and of course they have that famous Simon Bolivar Orchestra, youth orchestra. The numbers of kids getting trained in music down there, poor country compared to us, is outstanding. How was that experience?
It was, musically speaking, the most amazing experience of my life. And you go into these little nucleos where you see these little children with music instruments from the ages of 3 and older, and you see that music is literally saving their lives. It's a very inspiring thing to be down there, and to know that music is accessible to everybody. It's free. All the performances that the Simon Bolivar Orchestra does in Caracas, they're always free and open to everybody.
How many students are being trained in music down in Venezuela?
At least 250,000, if not more.
Wow.
And with projections that as they continue to develop, that by 2015, 500,000.
Right.
And there's no end in sight.
Right.
Absolutely no end in sight.
And of course, one of our leading world conductors is out of that system, Dudamel
Gustavo Dudamel, yes, the Los Angeles Philharmonic.
Los Angeles Philharmonic. Thank you for finishing his name for me, because I.
Oh, it's okay.
Well, let's talk about some of the things that are coming up at the Philharmonic. On November 18th, we have The Color of Italy, and that's going to be at the Arts United Center. Tell us a little bit about that concert. And
it's a great program. The two guest artists are Boris Slutsky, a Russian pianist based in Baltimore, and he's a great artist. And also the conductor will be Bedros Shatilian, who is actually an Armenian priest based, I believe, in New York and Massachusetts, and he studied conducting in Russia. And so they'll be sharing the program together. It opens with a piece by Richard Yardumian called Armenian Suite, which is a collection of folk songs and folk dances in an Armenian style for chamber orchestra, and then a masterpiece Beethoven Third Piano Concerto in C minor, featuring Boris, and then finishing it off, Mendelssohn's Italian Symphony.
There's the Italian. I was wondering when Italy was going to come in.
That's it.
Well, now this is the signature series, and
Right.
that's being performed, like I say, at the Arts United Center downtown on Main Street. It actually runs November 18th, and which is a Friday, and November 20th, which is a Sunday afternoon. But there's two different ways it's being performed. I guess that's the
Right.
wrong way to put it. One is a casual concert on Friday night, where one can come and have
Yeah.
a drink beforehand.
Exactly. At least 1 hour before the show, there'll be a happy hour setting essentially, where you could come and have a drink, and there's a cash bar and some hors d'oeuvres, and then
Meet
you
with
can
some of the musicians.
Meet with some of the musicians, mingle with fellow audience members, and then
Yeah.
go in and enjoy a relaxing evening.
Yes, I like that. I went
sure.
last time, and like you said, it starts rather early, I recall, maybe 7 o'clock on a Friday evening. So, you can go there and have a little snack and meet some people, maybe take a date or something.
Right.
Very casual, very relaxed. The concert's a little bit shorter than normal concerts. But if you want the
Exactly.
full program, not that you have to dress up or
Right.
anything like that, on Sunday afternoon, you can get that with
Exactly.
the other part
Yeah.
on Sunday afternoon.
Yep. So we're trying to bring in more audience members, especially, and this is one way to do it, I think, was with the signature series, a casual Friday night where you can feel welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a lot of fun. You also have the Holiday Pops. The Holiday
yeah.
Pops is a tradition with the Fort Wayne Philharmonic. That opens on December 9th and runs through the 17th at the Embassy Theater. And who do you have conducting that, and what can we expect to hear, if we don't already know?
Well, the former associate conductor of the Fort Wayne Philharmonic, Brad Thatchuk, will be back, and he'll be leading those performances in the Embassy. And they'll be featuring a lot of students from the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music.
Oh, yeah, they do some singing and dancing.
Great musical theater program they have
Yes.
there, and so they'll be joining us, and as well as the Fort Wayne Children's Choir will be on stage and singing and performing all of the holiday favorites,
It's,
Sleigh Ride and Winter Wonderland, and you name it.
Smiles all around.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that
So,
concert as well. And
right.
on December 15th, here at IPFW, the Philharmonic is doing Handel's Messiah.
Exactly. Yes, we're doing Handel's Messiah. We're having a second performance on the 14th as well, due to the high demand of it. So we have two performances of the Messiah happening this year, and everybody always loves to hear the Messiah at the holiday time. So
Absolutely, and I'm glad you're offering that second performance, because last year it sold out.
Right.
And that's a big concert hall,
Sure.
here at IPFW.
Right.
And you guys, well, Samir, believe it or not, that's the quickest 12 minutes in showbiz. But I want to just congratulate you.
Thank you very much.
And welcome to Fort Wayne, and we look forward to having you as part of our community and your leadership.
It's good to be
at the
here.
Philharmonic.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. For more information about the Fort Wayne Philharmonic and how you could buy tickets for any of their events, go to fwphil.org or call their box office at 481-0777. Arts Weekly will return in a moment.